Ooh, little soul. Uh-oh. All right, it's time to rock out to that soul. Rockin Company's Rockin CU with Adam Munsterteiger. Adam is at buffstampede.com. Follow him at AdamCM777. And Rockin Company's Rockin CU, making Colorado beautiful. Natural stone construction for 5 decades. RockinCo.com. And by Zadie's Deli, hitting it out of the park with great overstuffed sandwiches. Their homemade corned beef, their other deli treats like pastrami, a latke sandwich. Hey, potato pancakes instead of bread on a sandwich is a great idea, I think. Free parking front and back in Cherry Creek, 121 Adams Street, and they cater at Zadie's Deli. And good gray morning, Adam.
Good morning, Michael. Just 2 more weeks, and we'll be into preseason camp, so this summer is flying by.
It is, and before we get to this year's team, next year's team is starting to take shape a little bit. Colorado is filling out their 2018 class. Where do we sit today?
Yeah, they picked up commitment number 12 yesterday with Delrick Abrams, pretty highly regarded junior college cornerback, jumping on board, and they might pick up number 13 later today. Cherry Creek athlete Dimitri Stanley is going to announce his decision actually on 9 News here in Denver, so you can tune in at 5:15 p.m., find out where he's going to college. His father, Walter Stanley, was a Buff, and I think there's a pretty good chance Dimitri follows in his dad's footsteps. He would be the third in-state pledge to go with Blake Stenstrom and Ray Robinson if he does pick the Buffs. And circling back to Delrick Abrams, this is a good story. That you think now with the internet and availability of video on Huddle that it's hard to get overlooked if you're a talented prospect, and that's the case most of the time, but Delrick Abrams is from a small town in Louisiana, less than 500 people. He played 1A football in high school, so he really didn't get those looks coming out of high school. Yet you really need to either, if you're in a situation like he was, have the financial resources to go to a lot of camps, or have someone that kind of helps market you to these colleges, and he didn't have either. So he went under the radar, and fortunately for him, though, he ends up at Independence Community College in Kansas, and just after that first year, that freshman season, he's already got a long list of Power 5 schools after him: UCLA, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Oklahoma State, and of course CU. So he picks the Buffs. You look at his frame, 6'3", 180, kind of fits into that mold, and CU's an attractive place for those bigger cornerbacks to go right now, with obviously 3 other DBs just getting picked in the NFL draft. So yeah, if he's a good fit, he'll come in January with 3 to play too.
Okay, so he will play in 18, and is he a good cover guy?
He is, and he's pretty physical with that size. He's actually got a lot of guys 6'3", 180 don't have the fluid hips, and it makes it tough for them to be, to really stand out as a cover corner. But Delrick has that ability. You kind of watch him be able to change direction on a dime. So he's a good get for the Buffs for sure. And I think I mentioned this on your show before, that McIntyre's mission is really to keep this an upperclassman-laden squad. Last year, they had 47 scholarship upperclassmen going into camp. This year, they're going to have about 40. But you look at it going ahead next year, the current sophomore class that's going to be juniors next year only has 14 guys. So that's why they're attacking the junior college market a little bit. With Delrick Abrams coming in, they've got a commitment from Davion Taylor, who we've talked about, another junior college guy. So they're trying to build up that upperclassman number a little bit by the time camp starts next summer.
All right, and Dimitri Stanley, Walter's son, who's in his final 3 or 4? Obviously, Colorado stands strong, and I'm getting the feeling, even though I know you won't tip your hand, that Colorado stands a real good chance here.
Yeah, he's got quite a few other options. Nebraska was a school that he had visited, Arizona State, Cal, Louisville, Kansas State. So he's got quite a few other options, Utah. But yeah, I think it's a pretty strong possibility that he's going to end up going to CU.
All right, and those are some good schools. Colorado is it's a pleasure, compared to when we did this show 4 years ago, to hear who CU is competing with and winning against the major college programs. The difference is remarkable from where we were. There's an Aussie connection on this year's team, and I guess for next season it'll double. And what impact will that have? In
terms of the Australian guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about James Stefano. He was kind of my dark horse pick as a guy that's going to be a big part of this team as a place kicker coming in. And they actually put out some video of himself kicking balls in Boulder this summer, and the ball really flies off his foot. And then Sebastian Olver, like you alluded to there, it was a 2017 signee from Australia that initially it looked like he was maybe going to have to gray shirt. They were working out the details with his visa, even though he did go to a high school in the United States. He had gone back to Australia and was trying to get that sorted out, the paperwork in terms of him being able to enroll at CU, and that just recently, as Brian Howell, who you had on last week from the Boulder Daily Camera, reported, that just got sorted out this past week. So now he's ready to come on board and join the team. He was basically recruited as a big athlete, which means he could play on either side of the ball, but he's going to get his first crack, it sounds like, at tight end. Could also definitely play on the D-line if they need him there. And he puts them right at that 85 scholarship commitment mark for 2017, which is where you want to be going into camp.
Okay, and so as a new player, probably not a lot of impact coming up here. We got a debate. You mentioned Brian Howell was on last week, and we got into a debate with him and I and Kiz about who has the advantage in the Colorado State game. And my point was that over the years, the team that gets a game in first, and now Colorado State juggling their schedule to open their new stadium 6 days earlier against Oregon State, gets a game in before Colorado this year when they meet, and that's usually a huge advantage. Where do you stand on that?
Well, there's a couple reasons why I think it actually could end up being a negative for CSU. One of them is that Mike McIntyre's staff really has a reputation of being really good at when they get game tape on a team, they can really dissect that. You even saw that when their talent wasn't up to snuff in his first few years in Boulder, how close they played in a lot of those Pac-12 games. And a lot of that was credit to McIntyre and his staff in terms of being able to decipher some things that would work for them going into each game. So I think that helps them. You know, if the Rams opened against a real bad team, Little Sisters of the Poor, and they could hide things, maybe that wouldn't be such a big thing, but they're really going to have to put their cards on the table. So I think there's going to be a few things that CU can pull from that. And there's also, Bruce Feldman had this theory about a body blow theory, and he kind of looked at teams that played Stanford and how physical Stanford was and how that team fared the next week. You could kind of look at that a little bit with CSU. You know, they've recruited Mountain West guys that aren't necessarily used to going against P5 in back-to-back weeks. It might be a little bit of a body blow theory there for them going into playing Pac-12 teams, bigger physical teams than what they're used to seeing in the Mountain West back-to-back. But CSU could theoretically gain an advantage, obviously, if they beat Oregon State, got some momentum going. Or if they are going to take advantage of this, they'd have to really, I think, pounce on the Buffs in the first quarter while CU kind of gets those first quarter jitters, rust, whatever you want to call it, out of the way. But I actually kind of see this almost as a positive for CU, honestly.
Very good. I got our European correspondent gave me a critique of one of the new Buff basketball players, the Serb Lazar Nikolic, and said he's a legit 6'7" point guard. He hasn't always played well in Europe and didn't play well the day that our buddy saw him, but he didn't shoot well. But he's smart, a good ball handler. He'll be fine in the Pac-12, his scouting report. But good luck defensively. He certainly can't play defense against an opposing point guard, but he had a very good year in Europe this year. His team of 21 and under in the Division III Pro League played against grown men, even if they're not at their peak. And he looked like he will help the Buffs.
That's good. Yeah, they don't really necessarily need him to come in and be a world beater based off the other four guys that were in that recruiting class who I'd mentioned I got a chance to see earlier this month that all look legit, and a couple of them look like they've got NBA potential. So if he can come in and be a steady rotation guy, I think that's all you really need out of him.
Out of the Hall of Fame class that Colorado just announced, a lot of people on there that were just incredible, like Chad Brown, guys like that, Mark Haynes. But the guy who stood out for me just on personal memory is Jay Humphreys. After the Sox-Walseth era, there was really dark times. I think he played for Tom Apke, who was not successful up there, recruited by Bill Blair, I believe. But, I looked at it and I thought there are three all-time greats in Colorado basketball: Chauncey Billups, Cliff Mealy, Bertie Halderson, maybe in that order. But I would say that Jay Humphreys tops the next group of Ken Charlton, Scott Wedman, Sean Vandiver, Donnie Boyce, Dinwiddie, Harrison, Roby Burks, Robertson. I don't know if I'm forgetting someone on there. Is there somebody that stood out for you?
Well, no, but yeah, Chad Brown, it's funny, he just had his birthday. I don't know if you saw him. He was still dunking a basketball on Twitter, so he's still got some athleticism in him. I thought that was impressive. Everyone would give him flack for saying that it wasn't a 10-foot rim, but it looked like he got up on that dunk.
Well, he used up his football eligibility. What about basketball?
Maybe, yeah.
Anyway, happy birthday, Chad. Hey, thanks for everything. Thanks for having you again. We got about 20 seconds left. Tell me about buffstampede.com.
Well, we have audio of Rick George's roundtable with the media earlier this week, and there's some new commitments that are expected to come through, not just potentially Dimitri Stanley, but some other guys from the 2018 recruiting class that might jump on board. So stay tuned to buffstampede.com.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon. Rockin Company's Rockin CU.